Good morning, ladies and gentlemen, and I will guarantee no one will ever request that music. It is the morning call on WJOB 1230 AM 104.7 FM in Hammond, Indiana. It's great to be with you here this morning on a Wednesday, middle of August. Had a lot of rain yesterday, which is about time. We needed it. One of my neighbors actually sent me a photo this morning on Facebook showing that we got about 3 inches of rain total yesterday. So good soaker, good soaking rains that we needed. I know there was some lightning, but I don't think any major damage in the area. So with that, let's go to traffic and weather. Traffic in the region right now looks pretty good. 8094 is in good shape. I-65 not in bad shape. Remember, there is some construction on I-65. South of 8094 going down to US 30. Going over the line into Illinois, the Bishop Ford looks good. 294 looks good. Skyway's in pretty decent shape. The Ryan is actually in really good shape right now. Kind of a surprise for this early in the morning. So enjoy it while you can. Lakeshore Drive looks good. And you get into the outskirts, the Kennedy. Kennedy is its usual mess, and same for the Stevenson, actually, inbound. With that, we'll go right to weather.
All right, good morning, everybody. Today is Wednesday the 13th, and we are having a good day today, all right? It's going to be 84 at its peak, and it's going to be around 2 p.m. that's going to hit, and it's going to be mostly sunny and humid. Thursday is going to be much of the same with a high of 83 and plenty of sunshine. And then for the weekend, Friday and Saturday look nice with minimal clouds, a little humidity, and 90 and 92 respectively. And then Sunday, we're going to get a couple thunderstorms in the afternoon, but other than that, it'll be warm and humid with a high of 88. And that's your weather for the week.
And people have been asking, so I'll mention it. The pool actually is 91 on Monday.
Wow.
91 degrees on Monday. Probably sitting right at between 89 and 90. I mean, the change in the weather is just not going to change that 26,000 gallons sitting in the ground. So
I'm finally going to see my pool this weekend, and I will send you a picture of the
yeah,
temperature.
please do. Please do. 845-1100 is the number to call. Talk about a lot of things today, but I do want to throw out a topic, if you're interested, which is poor customer service. I mean, Joe, poor customer service is at a premium these days. You can find it. You find it everywhere. It's rampant. Nobody cares, and I've got some stories to tell that are just crazy. I went to a Culver's out in Maryville, and the conversation I had with the general manager was just plain nuts.
Was it the one by Costco?
Yes, it was.
Nice.
It was.
It's not my favorite Culver's location, but
really,
I used to frequent them a lot back in high school. So me and a couple of my buddies, we were captains on the football team, and we had tradition to every Monday we'd just, go to Culver's after practice because we all lived close to each other, and we'd eat and we'd talk about last week, and then we'd talk about what we got to do next week. And I don't know, it was 13 weeks of going to Culver's every Monday.
Well, I pulled into Culver's last Thursday, stopped in, was hot out, decided to get a frozen custard. pulled up. I said, yes, I'd like a dish with 2 dips, 1 chocolate, one vanilla. Woman says, you want 2 separate dishes? I said, no, I want the 2-dip dish. It's right on the board there. And she said, oh, well, that'd be separate because you want 1 chocolate, 1 vanilla. I said, no, just put the chocolate and the vanilla in the same dish. She says, well, that would be a half dip of each. I said, ma'am, whatever. So I pull up, and now there's a guy that puts his hand out the window and says, $3.45. And I said, $3.45, okay, and I gave him 3 $1 bills. And I had a bunch of nickels, so I gave him 9 nickels. He counts up the nickels, 1, 2, 3, 4. Yeah, that's 40 cents. I said, no, 9 nickels times 5 equals 45. He goes, I don't know how you're doing the math, but it's 40. So I said, well, count it this way, 5, 10, 15. He counts it up, and he's having a hard time. He gets to like 30, and he can't remember what the next number is. I said, look, here, just take another nickel. I give him another nickel. And out comes my frozen custard, and it's 2 half dips. And I said, look, I ordered 2 dips. Well, we can't do that. I said, well, it says it on the board that you can't. Well, we can't do that. Now, this has happened to me at least a dozen times there over the years. So I have a client in Maryville, and I'll stop there a lot of times and get a frozen custard on the way home. And so I thought, you know what? This is just so bad. The customer service, on top of everything else, they give me the cup, and the custard is like dripping all over it.
Yep.
I said, could I have a napkin? Oh, yeah, and they give me a napkin, 1 napkin, and the stuff's just dripping all over, so I need more than 1 napkin. I said, could I have another napkin? Oh, well, we'll only give 1 per customer. It's like, okay, well, you gave me this cup, and it's dripping all over. So I decided, all right, I'm going to call. So I call, and I get a woman who says she's a supervisor. I said, I'd like to complain about the poor customer service. She said, oh, I can't talk to you. I said, what do you mean you can't talk to me? She said, our policy is we're not allowed to talk to customers about our employees. I said, so I can't complain about customer service. She said, no, you can't. She said, well, you can talk to the general manager. Danny, he's here. So she puts Danny on the phone. Now, Danny might have taken a few helmet-to-helmet hits, okay? Because this guy gets on the phone, and he says, can I help you? And I said, yes. And I told him, he said, well, we can't talk to you. The supervisor already told me we can't talk to you because we can't talk about any employee issues. I said, well, okay, I want to complain about customer service. Well, that's an employee issue. We can't talk to you. Click. And he hung up.
That's insane.
That was the Culver's in Maryville, right by Costco.
That Culver's is such a hassle, too. It's in, like, literally, like, I complain to my dad about it all the time as he's the general manager of Costco. Like, I hate getting to Costco and anything in that, like, little shopping center. It's such a hassle with the light and everything. And even coming out and then turning onto 30, like, it is.
It's a pain to get in there. But, again, I'm always coming from the east, going west. And, again, if it's summer and it's hot, it's like, well, hey, stop and get a frozen custard. They have great frozen custard, by the way.
They do.
So I thought, why not? I want to see what the flavor of the day was. I didn't dare ask. I did not dare ask what the flavor of the day was because that's happened there before, too. I've asked, like, what's the flavor of the day? And you hear, strawberry. What? Strawberry.
Whoa.
What is it again? Strawberry. What is it? Could you say it a little more distinct? Strawberry. Strawberry? Yeah, that's what I said. What? And they have that muffled sound. And it's like, okay, can you just say the word strawberry? I mean, it's not that hard. It's just one big word. It's a couple of syllables, but it's just amazing. The poor customer service at that location.
I would say Costco actually has some good frozen custard at their concession stand if you ever get interested. But also, something you could do is if you just go past the bridge on 30, I think it's heading west. There's like another shopping center like just on the other side.
Oh,
like
yeah,
right where that old Chicago used to be.
And there's another
there's
Culver's over there, right?
No, there's an ice cream place, but there's also like a good smoothie place, like a good healthy smoothie place. Like
I'm not going to eat a smoothie.
I
it's
love
healthy,
smoothies.
Yeah.
Or they did just get Tropical Cafe across from.
I'm
across from Culver's, across from that Culver's.
You know, actually, I didn't do it yesterday. I had to go out to that client,
Mm.
but I was thinking if I stopped because it started to rain, so I didn't stop at all. But if I had to stop, I was going to stop and get uh, a Wendy's.
Wendy's.
I was
Oh
going to go to
yeah, the
Wendy's instead.
Frosties.
Get the
They just got the
Frosties.
new Frosties, and I've been trying to stay away from sweets, so I haven't gone towards them. But like, did you see like the mint ones with like the chocolate stuff on
I've
inside and stuff?
seen that. I've seen that. But again, it's just like how bad can customer service get? And then they tell you can't even complain. So it's insane. 845-1100 if you want to call in and you've got any complaints about customer service. We have a call. We do. We'll go right to the caller. Good morning. You are on the air.
Good morning, Tom.
Good morning.
Hey, first off, what's the temperature of your pool?
Well, I gave it a little bit ago. It was 91 on Monday. I don't know what it is today. I'm going to take a guess. It might be 89.
Well, I must have missed it when I first connected to you guys.
No problem.
You know that commercial, Allstate, the insurance Allstate?
Sure, I know the company. Yes.
Well, I'm back in good hands, and I'm back in a hospital.
I heard that. I heard that, Mike, and sorry to hear that you're having some health issues, but you're in the hospital, and hopefully they can take care of the current problem.
Yeah, it's a thing. Yesterday they put this thing in my arm. They're starting this thing, and then I have to be on it continuously for 2 weeks. They're trying to get it set up to where I can either be home or something. But so much on that. But one other thing I want to start off with is last week the wonderful kids from Gary, Indiana started to go back to school, and then now locally around here, pretty shortly the kids are going. I want everybody, listeners, everybody to know that when you see a school bus and it stopped, red lights are flashing, yellow lights are flashing, and stop arm is, be very polite and let the kids get on the bus safe so that they can graduate, get their diploma, and start doing something for this country for us. Be polite for that school bus.
No, I agree with you. You see too many people go around school buses. You see people fly by schools as well, not just stop school buses, but people see there's a school up ahead and they speed up and they fly through. And those are kids, those are our future, and we need to be very careful and very cognizant of them.
Yeah.
And good point, Mike.
Okay, and then you want to talk about complaints of
Yes.
service and everything. I've had quite a few sometimes down in my life, and lately, and a few times, and I really don't want to mention them, but it is kind of disgusting that when, like you were talking about your 2 scoops of ice cream, now you're making me hungry for ice cream.
Hey, it's only
And don't
6:12 in the morning.
Yeah, but don't forget we've got a wonderful ice cream place somewhere on 32, but up in Hammond, Dairy Belly.
Oh, Dairy Bell is great. And I was there just a week ago.
I've never had a problem when I pull up to the drive up. They're always polite, but I've had, like you were talking about your ice cream deal at that establishment that you were talking about. I've had some problems with stuff like that, and it's a shame you try to just be nice and explain something, and then they, boom, hang up on you. They don't want to talk to you,
Again, Mike, I wasn't trying to get the person in trouble. My point was,
No.
that, hey, look, this is a reflection on your business. And they wouldn't even take the call because they said it's their corporate philosophy to not talk about their employees in any way, shape, or form. And I just think that's crazy. I actually did call their corporate office. Somebody called me back on Friday, but I was involved in some meetings Friday and wasn't able to take the call. But I can't believe that their corporate philosophy is that they won't take a complaint about an employee.
Well, I have no complaints on this floor where I'm at because the lady came in earlier to clean up and straighten my sheets out on me, and I asked, can I have a cup of coffee before breakfast comes? She brings me 2 cups of coffee so I can have my coffee, listen to you and the wonderful JOB, and listen to all the wonderful people that call in and associate with WJOB, your staff and all your guests and everything. I'm going to let you go now so you can get Mr. Professor Walt on there. I love listening.
Walt will be calling in shortly, so you're right about that.
everybody out there have a safe day. And if it's another warm day or stormy or something, everybody that's listening and associates with the station, please be careful and just be careful and be safe.
All right. Thanks so much, Mike. Thanks for calling. 845-1100 is the number to call. We've got another caller. Good morning. You're on the air.
Hey, good morning. How are you this morning?
Great. How are you?
I'm good. Hey, I was calling about, I hate to bring this up, but it hasn't stopped, I haven't stopped thinking about it. About that police officer that died over at the sports arena there in St. John.
Oh, yes.
You always have Doherty on the station. He's always talking about the AED machines and stuff,
Mm-hmm.
And I was just curious if that facility had one.
I don't know the answer, but I would think that they do. You do see.
I would think they did too. That's why I was hoping they did, because God, he talks about it so much, and it's just always on my mind all the time now.
AEDs are so easy to use. If you've ever had to use one, it basically tells you what to do. It literally tells you what to do. It's like a voice in your head that says, do this, now do this, now do this, now push the button. It takes you exactly through what you need to do. They're very easy to use. The price for an AED has gone down quite a bit. They're down to about, I know a client of mine bought one earlier this year, and I think it was like about $1,100, $1,200 for a Philips, and that's the preferred one that fire departments suggest. And it really wasn't expensive at all. And I think you have to pay a small fee once a year for somebody to come out, or twice a year to check the batteries on it. But they're rechargeable, but you still need to make sure that they're going to work in an emergency. I think that they should be at every public location. You can't have them in every restaurant and every store, but they should be available in large public gathering facilities like that. And I would assume they probably have one.
Yeah, I assume they probably did. I just heard that they had done CPR for such a long time as soon as it happened, and I just didn't hear anything. And I was hoping they did, and I was hoping it wasn't something small like that could have saved this gentleman.
There are times, and I don't know the details. Of course, I know that he passed, but I don't know his medical details, and you probably don't either. But there are certain conditions, of course, that you can't be revived from.
Oh yeah, I know that.
So
I was hoping that everything was possible there that could have saved him. I was just hoping.
No, again, you have a great point, and in fact, my own church, St. John the Baptist Catholic Church in Whiting, has an AED now. And it's available. Again, there are just those possibilities. You have large gatherings of people. You want to be able to make sure that you can save someone's life, and so you see them in facilities. We of course broadcast from the campus of Purdue Northwest. They're very prevalent at buildings at Purdue Northwest. You see them in shopping malls now. You see them in large public facilities, companies. The manufacturer that I was mentioning earlier, that's a client of mine, they have one. And they've never had a situation, by the way, in all the years that they've been in operation, which is, I think, 60-some years, they've never had anyone have a heart attack. But their plant manager said, you know what, I don't want to be here in case they do. So I want to make sure that we have the proper equipment. And a good, again, $1,000 roughly will get you a good machine, and you could save a life. So it's a great suggestion.
I also want to point out just how easy it is to be knowledgeable on like basic sorts of stuff that can save human lives. Me myself, I'm CPR certified for like another year, and I'll probably get recertified when it happens. And like I've had friends that have had seizures. I've had seizures, and stuff like that happens all the time in athletics. And obviously, I don't know what caused his death. So I'm assuming everything that could have been done was done. But to have the knowledge of that, just in case you're in a situation where something like that happens to somebody, it's really important.
It is, and CPR is great training to have. And I was CPR certified. I'm no longer. I've let it lapse. But again, as the caller is mentioning, an AED is so easy to use. It gives you
Oh,
the
yeah.
voice prompts. It tells you what to do. You don't have to know anything about CPR. You don't have to know anything about even putting a Band-Aid on someone. This thing talks you through it, and it will save a life.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, I just hope every organization can find a way to raise money or do a fundraiser or something. But yeah, and these schools, I know all the schools have to have them now. I hope they're doing a training where everybody knows where it is, everybody knows how to get it, everything. It's just so important.
Oh, absolutely. It's a great, great suggestion and great point, and really appreciate your call.
Thank you. Have a great night. Or day, I'm sorry.
Thank you. 845-1100. You want to take a quick break?
Sure.
Why don't we take a quick break? You're listening to the Morning Call on WJOB 1230 AM, 104.7 FM, the TuneIn app, and now we're on YouTube Live. We'll be right back. All right, we're back, and we'll talk about any issue that you want to talk about this morning, but we were talking about poor customer service, and here's one. This is off of Facebook, and I just found this. So this is an exchange. A business basically recently remodeled and reopened. And so this is the exchange. It says, why were you closed? Not good for business if you have to be closed. I had to go to another location, this one in Lansing, which is a competitor. It was fantastic. And so the response is, well, if you followed the Facebook page, you'd know we were closed, working hard to make the business even better. And then they show the announcement that says they're going to be closed for 3 weeks for renovations. And the person responds and says, thanks for your response, but I'd much rather give my business to a business that never closes since they opened and have a fantastic reputation. And then the person responds, says, then do that, but why feel the need to come on here and insinuate stuff to make a small business look bad? All we were trying to do is make our business look better, so we remodeled it. So you were mad that we remodeled to make it better for the customers? Wow. Well, you have never recarpeted, floored, or painted any single aspect of your home. New sink, dresser, bed, same thing. What an ignorant comment, and it goes back and forth. And the person is upset because the business in question, small business over the line in Illinois, basically had done some renovations. And so the customer was upset that they did the renovations because they were closed for 3 weeks, and she couldn't go and get her pastries and coffee. And so she's complaining that that's poor customer service. I'm not talking about that as poor customer service. That is basically part of the cycle of a business life, that you have to put money into the business and keep it fresh. But customers still complain.
Yeah, I mean, that seems a little bit ridiculous to me. But you said that the owner, wrote back, right? And
Yeah,
they commented back?
I'm taking it that this is the owner. I mean, again, I just saw this as we took a break. I'm flipping through Facebook, and I see these complaints about this business. It says, we're back, we're open, stop by, enjoy our new facilities. And then this person goes off because they're complaining, well, you were closed for 3 weeks, and I had to take my business elsewhere, and now I'm not coming back because you didn't, you were closed for 3 weeks, and it interrupted my cycle.
Obviously the lady is just being ignorant, but the owner definitely didn't handle that situation the best way possible. I understand.
Oh, I think she did, because she basically calls the person at task and says, so you didn't want us to invest in the business? You didn't want us to remodel?
I mean, I understand that, but to be online as an owner and representing a business, and then to be sarcastic towards, the people, whether or not they are in the wrong. I'm not siding with the other lady saying, but I've worked multiple, retail or customer service job where I'm interacting with people that are, being idiots. And every time no matter how frustrated I am, it's literally like a switch in my brain that I have to be like, oh, okay, hi, right? And you talk to them differently, and it's all this other stuff. And I feel like, especially if you're the owner or you're representing a company like that, you just got to swallow your pride sometimes. They're being an idiot, just be like, all right,
I agree,
thanks.
but again, if you actually read she's not being rude. She's just saying, look, we put money into it to make it nicer, and it goes on and on. This person you can't win, but I mean, again, this was an example of poor customer service. This is an example of I would say bad customer. But
no doubt.
I'll give you another example. So Pierogi Fest ends on Sunday afternoon, July 27th. And I'm worn out. My wife picks me up, and she said, well, I didn't really make anything for dinner because you're running a food festival. And I said, I didn't even get a chance to eat anything. I said, I'm starved. So I want something to eat. So I told her to take me to Taco Bell on Indianapolis Boulevard near the state line, which is the one right outside of Walmart. We pull in, and I said, I'll just get the $7 Lux box. And I don't know if you go to Taco Bell at all, but they have a $5, $7, and $9 box, right? So I ordered the $7 box. The cashier or the clerk rings it up, and it shows on the screen that it's $8.99. And I said, no, I wanted the $7 box. She said, yeah, the $7 box is $8.99. I said, no, it's $7. She says, no, it's $8.99. Our $7 box is $8.99. We're not charging what it says on the screen. I said, well, the law says that you cannot charge more than what you advertise, which is true. In the state of Indiana, there's a law that says you cannot charge more than the advertised price. And the woman says, well, hold on. And this guy comes out who looks like his name ought to be Lumpy. Okay. He comes out and he's just standing there, kind of walks real slow. Again, not the sharpest tack in the box. And stares at the screen and says, yep, that's what it says. And she says, well, it's still wrong and we're charging $8.99. So we pulled away and we went somewhere else. And I called Taco Bell and I talked to the regional trainer, Ms. Davis. She said, well, make sure you get my name right. If you say my name, it's Ms. Davis. I said, okay, I'll make sure I say Ms. Davis. The regional trainer at Taco Bell, who said to me, well, the price was wrong on there, and we were trying to get it fixed. And I said, when did you fix it? And this was actually the other day. And because after my Culver encounter, I decided, okay, I'm going to call Taco Bell and complain. So I complained. And Ms. Davis says, well, we just fixed it 5 minutes ago. I said, so wait a minute. Today is like August 3rd, and you just fixed it 5 minutes ago, but the problem was on July 27th. And she said, well, sometimes it takes a while to fix these things. So, I mean, no, I'm sorry for sorry for the confusion, nothing like that. It's like, no, you don't understand. No, you don't understand. The price is $8.99. It's like, well, how did I misunderstand it? It says $5.79. And she says, yeah, well, that's not the price we charge because we're a franchise. We can charge whatever we want. I said, but you can't charge whatever you want if it's posted as $7. And she kept on saying, no, that's not true. We can do whatever we want. We own the business. We can do whatever we want. I said, well, you still have to follow the laws. No, we don't have to follow the laws. That's what she told me. We don't have to follow the law.
Miss Davis.
Miss
You always
Davis.
have to follow
So there
the
you
law.
go. So I'm sure that's probably not her real name, but she's well, my name is Ms. Davis. And she said it several times. It's Ms. Davis. And just, in case you call somewhere else and you want to complain, you tell them Ms. Davis. I said, well, I'm sure they'll know who you are.
I don't know if this is, a generational difference or maybe just the difference between me and you, but it is effective. In my mind, it is literally a waste of time to call and complain because I don't think I've ever seen my mom or my dad get anywhere with complaining to customer service.
You're right because generally these customer service operations are in many cases, they're not even operated in the United States anymore. And you've got somebody sitting there and they're like, good afternoon. They'll say like 5 different names before they get the name of the place that they're calling because they're handling multiple brands. Hotels, for example. Hotels, when you call customer service on hotels, it's usually held by several different, by a independent third party. Mm-hmm. And they're handling several different brands. But we've got callers, so let's go to the callers. Good morning. You're on the air.
Oh, hey, Thomas, could you do me a favor? Could you play the theme song
we can't
from
play,
What's
we
Happening?
We can't play any theme songs anymore. I'm sorry.
But just one little song, What's Happening, with no words.
No,
in memory of the woman who played...
Sir, we can't do it anymore. I'm sorry. Thank you.
Sorry, bud.
Good morning. We'll take another caller. Good morning. You're on the air.
Good morning, Tom.
Good morning.
I got to say something.
Sure.
I'm a little wore out right now. My pet chicken got loose. And so some kind of slime. I'm driving around. There's some kind of slime in here. And it keeps hitting my windshield no matter where I'm at. I don't know. But anyways, that don't matter. I want to clear things up here on this SB1 Senate bill. Okay? Now, we get at the most 300 back, right?
Right.
And I don't want to think everybody that the sky is falling. So McDermott, with his 1.2 local tax that was granted by the Democrats, just has to take the 300 back. It's that simple. Yesterday, all these Democrats were calling in, and Kuziak is the sky is falling. And I tried to explain this to him before he really hung up on me. He's a good friend of mine, by the way. I see him over there.
I'm a good friend of yours. I'll hang up on you too then. No.
You didn't hang up, did you?
Not yet.
I'm just teasing, guys. Everybody hates it. I gotta watch what I say. But what I'm saying is, I tried to explain to Kuziak in that Neanderthal head he's got, that if they give you $300, the state, right, property tax, McDermott's just got to take $300 back, then we're square. It's like one cup to, you know what I'm saying? But now if McDermott takes $900, it's McDermott's fault.
Well, I've read SB 1, and I'll be very honest with you. On August 27th, we're going to have 2 state senators on here to talk about SB 1 and other issues with the state. Dandrew Nolt and of course, Lonnie Randolph. And they're going to be here, and I'm going to let them explain and address these issues. But what you're saying is that there's an option, because I have not seen this. You're saying in SB 1 there's an option that a city can forego the $300? I have not seen that.
No, what I'm saying is, okay, when we get that $300 back from Braun, right?
Right.
The city is in the shortfall of $300 per person, right?
Right.
Right? All McDermott do, he don't got to go to 1.2%. He just got to recoup that $300. You see what I'm saying? He could go to 0.5. He could go to 0.2. Now,
except that it wouldn't be across the board. It would depend on the person's income.
Right. But what he needs to do is not go 1.2 right off the bat. I mean, he needs to figure out, and you know what? I'm pretty slick in math. I could come down and figure it for how many people are paying in, how much percentage he actually has to do to recoup that $300 that Braun is taking. And when I tried to explain to Kuziak, and then Kerry called it. You know, the guy that golfs all the time?
Yes.
And he tried to say that $14 million, I don't know what they're putting up. They got to cool on these projects. Now, we're on the hook for this train, and it don't even work. Now, if you think about what I'm saying to everybody out there, okay, we gained $300 on our property taxes, and let's just say it's $1 million. Let's just say it's $1 million shortfall. McDermott's got to find a way at certain percentage to get that $1 million back. I don't want him to go to 1.2 and get $8 million and spend 7 of it. Do you understand what I'm saying?
Yes, but I have to, just a quick aside. You said you're good at math, okay, and listening to you, I'm sorry, but you're the king of memes, right? And so you need to do your own meme today. You need to do a meme of you as Jethro Bodine doing ciphering. Because I'm not following your math.
That's where I learned my math from, is Jethro Bodine.
But
it's just like my buddy Steelworker Ron. You know, another guy, the sky is falling like Kuziak yesterday, because, we know, Kuziak had the instant liberal side.
I'm not going to say I'm not going to speak on behalf of Dave Kuziak because I didn't listen to him. I don't listen to him, so I don't know the details. But I do know this. I do know that SB 1 is being viewed statewide by Democrats and Republicans at the local level as a disaster. So I've not heard any community stand up and say, "Wow, this is great," because what they basically did, it's a shell game. They took money and they're saying, "Here, MX, we're going to give you $300 back from the state of Indiana. Remember us, we've done a great job." But the $300 that they're giving you is going to require every local community in the state of Indiana to pass now a local income tax, which, like you said, Hammond wants to do 1.2%, and it's going to cost the residents of Hammond more money than the $300. That's your point.
Right? Exactly. You said it. I couldn't. The name because all this slime on my window. It's the shell game. This SB1 is nothing but a shell game. Now,
Right.
Tom Schmidt, he called in, and maybe I could be wrong, but he's thinking that they can cut some places and they're not going to do the tax. Okay, now, I don't ever want to see fire and policemen cut. Because I call them enough. I call the police like, they know who I am, right?
Sure.
And the people on my block look up to me, and I thank the police. We can't get rid of the police for fire. Can't do that. But there's some other things we could slow off on a little bit, right?
Well, there's a lot of things. There's a lot of things that you can cut on a municipal budget, but there are a lot of things that you can't cut. Okay, and so you're right. Police and fire. People wouldn't want code and building inspections to cease, right? You still have to cut the grass in the parks. You can say, well, we're not going to add any more parks. We're not going to add any more bike paths. We're not going to add anything more. But what you have to maintain, and you have to maintain it to a safe level. So you have to pay for those repairs. You have to pay for that upkeep. At the end of the day, there's not as much cuts. There aren't as many cuts as people think there are. You can go in and say, well, we're going to cut back on public works. Okay, you can cut back on public works, but then you can't. Then you'll have potholes, and you won't have regular trash pickup, and you won't have those kinds of things.
You missed one, and you know what it is, and I don't want to say it, but some people abuse it and never finish and don't pay a dime back. It's college bonds. If you finish, that's fine. That's why Adriana didn't say a word when Kuziak asked her. Let's be honest here. If you go through that college bound and you think it's a big joke, okay, my dad would have beat me if I went to college and thought it was a big joke. Okay, now I got to pay my dad back because first of all, he promised me if I finish college, I'll pay for your college. But I think this is just some sonority gig, and I'm going to go there, and I'm going to play around, and look at me, then I'm going to quit, and we're on the hook for it. That ain't good. We need to look at that right there, because I get so many complaints about, if you finish, okay, we'll pay. If you don't, and you think it's a joke, I think you're on the hook for it. Now,
by the way, I don't disagree with you that you can make some revisions to College Bound to make it more fiscally sound. I think College Bound has proven that it's been a good program for a number of years in Hammond. It basically did stop the slide of the middle class from Hammond. So it had some value, but I agree. There are people who take advantage of everything. And so if you can tighten it up, I absolutely agree with you on that.
And I think I think in the end, McDermott could get his $300 back. Some guys might have to pay more, but you're making more. But to stick a retiree or somebody that, that's been retired for a while, and I get these phone calls, believe me, I'm just speaking for the people. I'm just the messenger. Let's not go to 1.2 off the bat, and then you find out you got a bunch of money, and then spend it on God knows what that we don't need. I mean, look at this train. Sooner or later, we're going to tell you why this train ain't running.
Look, the train has proven so far to not be. Again, we've talked about the still we're almost blue in the face. The train basically is not the salvation of Northwest Indiana that a lot of people want to make it out to be. It's really just relocating the traffic from the Hammond station and East Chicago station out to Munster. That's all it's really doing. Okay, it's not going to increase riders. Ridership is down. Ridership's not going to come back to the levels that it was pre-COVID because business is working smarter and understanding that they don't need all those people in downtown Chicago. So those days are numbered, and the train's not going to be the big salvation that everybody thought it is. And we spent a lot of money on it. You're absolutely right. But at the end of the day, the train isn't causing this crisis. SB1 is causing the crisis, which is basically cutting dollars from local government throughout the state of Indiana. And yes, there are some communities that are going to make some cuts and hope that they can weather it. But when I look at SB1, I think long term, most communities are going to have to adopt some sort of a local tax, and it's wrong because you're telling people on the one hand we're giving you a tax break and then we're taxing you to make up for the taxes. So it's just wrong. But again, MX, I want you to send me that meme of you and Jethro Bodine doing ciphering. It's out there, all right? Take care.
All right, bye-bye.
845-1100, we've got another caller. Let's go to that. And then, you want to take a break first? Callers holding. We've got 2 callers holding. Tell you what, we're going to take a very quick break. We'll be right back. Stay on the lines. We'll be right back. It's the morning call on WJOB. talk radio at its best. We've got full lines, so let's go right to the callers. Good morning. You're on the air.
Hey, this is Lumpy's dad from Taco Bell. I don't really appreciate you fat shaming my son.
Well, you know what?
Just because the guy goes through $8-9 boxes a day for his free meal stipend, there's no reason to fat shame him on national radio.
Well,
you gigantic-headed, gigantic-headed bike riding dork from Whiting.
That's right, and don't forget with an in-ground pool. But you know what?
Oh yeah, millionaire problem. Yeah, how about I throw Lumpy in that pool? We'll see.
Actually,
the
water would be there'd be a lot less water in the pool if that guy fell in my pool. You're absolutely right. What's up, Mad Mac?
Yeah, your utility bill spike. Hey, just so you know, regarding SB1, I don't. The people that are complaining are the people on the government payroll. Because if you want me to go through the list of things where we could make cuts, I'll start out with a flashback from the past. Let's see, Spiros Papadopoulos over at the community, what do you call it, the visitor center.
Visitor center, yes.
Yeah, put it in no hours a week during the summer because he's on his jet skis all day. Now, how do I know that?
But that is that money. The money that the Convention and Visitors Authority operates on is from the hotel tax. It doesn't come from property taxes.
Breaking news.
Yes.
All money can be transferred. It's all state tax money to be used for the benefit of the taxpayer.
Breaking news, if the state passes a law that allows you to transfer it, yes. But the state has to pass that law. Breaking news.
Again, government expense, okay?
Okay.
Let's go over to the Gary Airport. We only put in $500 million there and got nothing back.
I agree. I think the Gary Airport
did a gigantic. Is this my phone call or is it yours?
Well,
let's go over to the Gary train station. Went by there about 15 times in the last 3 weeks. If I shot a cannon across that platform, I would have hit nobody.
Can I ask you why you're hanging out at train stations in Gary?
None of your business.
That's what I thought.
They're all over the age of 16, so relax.
Okay.
Now we're going to end up paying another what? I think they're going to estimate that the cost is going to be about $70 million to replace every other tie because they electrified the entire system. So if you need one, you don't need those $1,000 paddle things.
All right, let me interrupt your diatribe for a second because here's the thing: you're talking about saving money in Gary. So tell me how you save money in Griffith because Rick Rifa is a regular listener. So tell Rick Rifa because he's going to see, and the town council of Griffith is going to see their tax dollars cut. How do they cope with that cut in Griffith?
You know how they'll cope with it? They'll figure it out.
Well,
that's how they'll do.
Well, there you go. There's advice. That's why you're not a consultant. Because if you were a consultant, you wouldn't be able to sell that. You wouldn't be able to sell that advice to anybody. Figure it out yourself. The point is that it's easy to say figure it out yourself, but the reality is look, you're right. We've wasted money in Gary on the train station. We've wasted money on the airport. But how does that translate to all the other local communities in Northwest Indiana, Mad Mac?
Again, they will all figure it out because as soon as the government guy says to me, "Oh no, we're running as lean as possible," the lie detector goes to the far right like a Geiger counter over in the edge of Russia or Japan. Okay,
but you live in Griffith, and Rick Rifa has been on the show before, and Rick is a very good town council member. In fact, he's the president of the town council. They do a great job in Griffith, but Griffith, like everybody else, is now going to face budget cuts.
And we will figure it out.
But how? Well, give them some advice. How are you going to figure it out?
Well, I haven't gone through listen, you just open up the spreadsheet and you start looking and you go, what is this one here? What is that one? I heard the Democrats forever. Oh, no, there's nothing you can cut in our government. No. Oh, now we got $1 trillion in the State Department called USAID, and we find out we're sending condoms to people down in Buenos Aires to see if they can actually double as hats or something. What are you crazy?
Again,
I mean, it's
look,
insane.
here's
every budget has it. Ask the guys in Highland who took the $70,000 trip to go to the Hoover Dam. What was the point of? Oh, it's the water department. We needed to know how water moved. I can tell you how water moved. Pour it on a table, it goes to the point of least resistance. Done. Now sit your ass back in Highland and save $70,000. Okay. I've seen the guys in Cherville. Every employee gets to walk into the town garage and borrow any piece of equipment they want. Guy walks out with three, what do you call it? What are the stupid things? Chainsaws. Yeah, I got a lot of trees I got to cut down. Whose chainsaws are those? Well, the town of Cherville. Well, how about you put them back and go to Menards and buy your own damn chainsaws? I did this.
By the way, there's a law. There's a law in the state of Indiana that says that you can't use municipal properties.
Tom. They break them all the time.
Okay, but the point that you're saying, if what you're saying is true, it's a violation of the law.
Oh, jeez! If you put politicians in jail for every time they violated the law, there would be nobody left in government on planet Earth.
Well, we'd have the little Cal Alcatraz. We'd have to build one of those little alligator Alcatrazes up here. Is what you're saying.
But listen, the Festival of Lakes every year, right? You got what? How many people go there a year? 20, 30 grand? Something like that?
Okay.
Instant money. Everybody who comes in, you charge them $5. No one's going to complain because every kid's got $5. You know, half of them are on the food stamp programs, they're on the SNAP program. They're getting this free, that free, everything's free. There's no respect for free. That's why you got the problem with college bound. When you give stuff away, it never, ever works.
Well, look, you live in Griffith. Are you willing to give up Rock and Rail?
Rock and Rail is a break-even deal.
Okay, but the point is...
They've lost a total of like $27,000 in 11 years on average.
Right, and Rock and Rail's one of my favorite festivals, and it is extremely well run. I agree with you. It's extremely well run. But my point is this: is that you could say, well, just get rid of it and then save the money completely. Okay, so once again, it's easy to sit there and say, let's cut this, let's cut that. I wouldn't cut Rock and Rail if I were the town of Griffith. I would keep it going, one, because it does break even. It doesn't cost the taxpayers money, and
it generates a ton of money in tax revenue.
Well, it's break even, so it's not generating. It's generating the cost to cover the cost. Is what you're really saying?
That's on a cash basis.
Well, again, it's easy to sit there and say we'll figure it out and we'll find the cuts. But the reality is that those cuts for a lot of communities, for a lot of well-run communities like the town of Griffith, it's going to be a lot harder than you think it is. That's my point.
Yeah, you keep saying that, and then you're going to find out it's a lot easier than you think.
Well, I actually know those budgets, and I've seen those budgets, and there's not as many cuts as people think there are. There are some cuts. I agree with you, Gary. There's plenty of cuts to make. There are plenty of cuts. There are plenty of reallocations.
You got all the government consultants going, yeah, we found as many cuts as we can, except they're charged at $200 an hour. They ain't cutting that, though. We'll cut those consultant guys right out of the blocks. And I guarantee they'll still show up for $100 an hour because it's the easiest money they've ever made.
All right. Hey, we've got some additional callers we've got to go to, but thanks for calling.
No names mentioned, Thomas.
Take care. 845-1100. We're coming right up on 7 o'clock in the Calumet region. You're listening to WJOB 1230 AM, 104.7 FM in Hammond, Indiana. And let's go to some more calls. Good morning. You're on the air.
You guys are talking about finding cuts and cuts and cuts. How come they always seem to find the money for, how about maybe a $7 million bike bridge? Or how about that one parking lot at the Gary train station on the east side? I've been driving by it for the past year since that pavement was paved. I've never seen a stinking car parked in it, but now I guess it's just overflow parking for the Gary Air Show.
You know
how
what?
About in Dyer?
You know what part of the problem is? Part of the problem is that over the years, the federal government has made dollars available, which we all know we've got a bankrupt system when it comes to the federal government, but they put all these federal dollars out there, and they said to communities, you know what? You only have to pay 20%. And a lot of communities bought into that fictitious story that, well, we're going to get this great big project, and it's a $7 million project, like you said. We only have to pay 20%. Well, that 20% adds up. And so a lot of communities like Gary, you're absolutely right, have spent needless dollars and made commitments to these projects that aren't necessary, but because somebody's dangling money in front of their eyes, they're like, oh yeah, we'll take the money, 20%, that we can find that. Well, the 20% adds up, and that's part of the problem. Go ahead.
And how about in Dyer? Rob Starkey's on this airwaves a couple weeks ago. $14 million pavilion for entertainment in Dyer, and we got paid in cash full, and now you need to come at us for some more money, but you built your pavilion that you could use, let's be realistic, in the Midwest a couple months out of the year to be outdoors. It's a bunch of bulldog. They always find money for the crap, and that's the problem. That's the problem that MX has. Mad Max just, they got money for the crap.
No, you're right. Look, you're absolutely right. It comes down to a lot of people like these projects that are built in their communities, and they say, look, I live next to whatever, a new park, a new parking lot, a new pavilion, whatever the case may be, and they love to tout it, but they don't realize that money wasn't free. Okay, first of all, that money came from the federal government, so it's creating more federal debt, which which we should be concerned about, but we're all kicking the can down the road to the next generation always. And then they fail to realize that, the local municipality is on the hook for 20 or 30% of that cost, and a lot of times the local municipality doesn't even have the money, so they go and they finance their local match. So now you're adding the interest cost to those bonds, and everybody's like, oh yep, this is great stuff. Let's do this. Let's build this. Let's add this, and nobody thinks about the impact of the cost. You're right about it. But at the same time, when you look at most municipal budgets, the biggest costs that are in there are police and fire, followed by your basic city services, public works, zoning, building, code enforcement. Those all add up as well. And the problem with SB1 is the state of Indiana wanted to give everybody a tax break, so they did, but it's a shell game because they're just moving the cost from one pocket to the other. If they give me $300 and then I have to pay $400 in local taxes, how did I gain anything? And that's part of the problem with this SB1 bill.
No, it's the American way. Find debt, and yes. Then the bills come and it's I don't know. I
think about it. Think about it. If you're a local official and somebody comes to you and says, "Hey, you know what? We can put a bridge. We can put a bike and pedestrian bridge over this road, and you're only going to have to pay 20% of the cost. And Johnny's going to be able to get to school safer, and Tom, who rides his bike, he's going to love it because he doesn't have to get off his bike, or he doesn't have to stop for the stoplight anymore across the street, and it sounds really good." And you tell your constituents, "Hey, we're going to build a $7 million bike bridge," right? It sounds great, except that there's a local cost that nobody is concerned about. All right, that $7 million bridge, you're going to pay 20%, and you put up that bridge, and then you say, "Gee, we don't have the money for it, so we're going to have to finance it, so we're going to issue bonds." Well, that's going to add additional costs. So by the time you're all done, the taxpayers end up paying substantially for that $7 million that the federal government gave you, which, by the way, the taxpayers have to pay that too. That's the problem with the way government works.
And the problem is too, okay, you got that bridge for 20%. Well, you're already broke. You shouldn't have went and borrowed 20 or whatever the 20% of that was. You're already broke. Broke people shouldn't borrow money. Duh.
But you know what? When you run for office, when you run for re-election, and your opponent finds out that you passed on that $7 million, he or she's going to make a big issue about it, how you're incompetent because you passed up on $7 million. And that's what also happens all the time. So we forget about this when there's an election, because the opponent goes out and says, well, Joe failed to take the $7 million that was available, and it makes it sound bad. I mean, look, I see postings all the time, Frank Mervan showing up to cut the ribbon on this project and that project, and it's great, but those projects are federal dollars, and they're not 100% funded by the federal government. So there's a local match, and I just sit there and I kind of wonder, and I'm not blaming Frank, by the way. I'm saying that just the obvious, that he shows up for these ribbon cuttings and these announcements and these groundbreakings, but those federal dollars we're paying for, and we're also paying for the local dollars. So that's not free money. When we say, how much money did the congressman bring back to the region? Well, it's not really, he didn't bring the money back. He's just getting a portion of the cost of federal government, which is adding to our debt. It's just a vicious cycle.
It's a vicious cycle, and thank God you said you mentioned the ribbon cutting, hoot harassing. I'm glad I don't have a party every time I go broke and I put myself in debt.
Well, yeah, that's the problem. That's the problem at all levels of government these days. The constituents want all these projects, but nobody realizes that there's a lot of debt being created by and generated by all these projects. Hey, thanks for calling.
Yep, great show.
845-1100, we've got another caller. We've got two more callers, and we're going to go to a break. Good morning, you're on the air.
For the people out there who have not been long-time listeners to WJOB, these big-ticket projects that have been proposed, especially since the creation of the Regional Development Authority, they may think that why didn't somebody say something about that? Well, there was plenty of us who said it. Take the train, the West Corridor train extension of the South Shore. I and others said over and over again, it is not a $500 million and change project. It's a $1 billion project. What we got was Deedlow saying, we need to do that to show that we can do big projects. You had Skolasky coming on WJOB, the congressman at the time. He came on WJOB, and boy, he was throwing snot, and he was indignant as hell, and insisting, where do they get this $1 billion project stuff? If it's a big-ticket construction operation, it is loaded. I mean, the liars come out of the woodwork, and they lie, and they lie, and they lie, and they lie. And despite the problems with this West Corridor thing, they're pushing for the extension of the South Shore to Valparaiso and Lowell and Cedar Lake and so forth.
You know what, Walt? It sounds great, but as you said before, first off, whatever price they tell you, double it, triple it, okay? They're going to lowball it. And secondly, the question is, does it really add the benefit? I mean, I'm sorry, but I look at the West Lake Corridor, and what I hear from individual users is, well, yeah, it's going to be more convenient for me because I live in Munster, and now I won't have to drive to Hammond or to East Chicago. That's what I'm hearing from actual passengers. I mean, it's great to say this is going to bring all this new development. It's going to create new development. Really, because if the South Shore created new development, where is it? When you drive through North Hammond and you drive through East Chicago, where's all that development that all these years never materialized along the South Shore, but it's going to materialize along the new Westlake Corridor? Baloney. Baloney.
They were talking as if this is a replica of Naperville. Naperville? Are you kidding? But this is how flagrant the lying that goes on, and the voices that say, "No, what you're talking about is a bunch of crap." You're smeared as an obstructionist. You're too conservative, on and on.
Well, here, how about the fact that the local option income tax The local portion for the residents of Whiting is dedicated to pay for the South Shore expansion. Okay, if you live in Whiting, the Westlake Corridor is not going to do you any good. You're not going to drive to Hammond to the Gateway Center and then hop on a train and drive and take the train down to visit my cousin Walt. I mean, if you and I were related, I'm not going to drive to Hammond from Whiting to go to take the train to come to your house. Besides, that train isn't going to be in walking distance to most people's homes anyway. So, I mean, it just doesn't make any sense. But Pete Visklowski went around and he strong-armed every community to make that commitment. We're all going to commit money to the Westlake Corridor because the idea is that we have to work together because, we sink or swim together. Well, you know what? We've got a boondoggle. We've got a boondoggle. And I'm sorry, the train will run and it'll look very pretty and very nice and it'll benefit a few thousand riders who live in Munster and Dyer and those communities, and they won't have to drive as far to Hammond in East Chicago. And those lots won't be filled anymore, and they're not now. But there'll be even fewer cars, and you won't see all the new economic development that everybody claims is associated with building commuter trains in the United States. It's not going to happen. If it did, how come we've never seen any of those developments? You've ridden the South Shore, Walt. Have you ever gotten off a train in Hammond and said, "Wow, gee, I want to live there. Look at this new construction. Look at this new development, this residential development along the South Shore in Hammond," because it doesn't exist.
Of course not. They brought in a consultant from Indianapolis who claimed that there would be a 50% increase in the ridership. I pointed out repeatedly over WJOB, look, the ridership on the South Shore has been in decline since 2008, about a 1 or 2% a year. You had a professor that was cited saying, "Hey, there's not enough people riding to go into Chicago. Furthermore, Chicago's downtown employment situation is in decline.
Right.
It's moving a different direction completely."
And by the way, Walt, let me just throw this out, and I know exactly which firm you're talking about. That firm out of Indianapolis came up here and had the audacity to tell us that this train was going to add all this value, right? But Indianapolis, which is a growing city, Indianapolis basically went to dedicated bus runs. So you have a dedicated bus run, which basically the bus runs down the center of the street and basically can actuate the stoplights in its favor, and they run them from Broad Ripple down to the downtown area on a regular basis, and they paid a fraction of the cost of putting in a regular train.
Yep.
And there, myself and a guy named Andy Dybel, who worked for a company that was Veolia Transportation, went years ago, if you remember, during the debate about the train, we wrote a guest column for the Times and explained how you could do a dedicated bus run for a lot less money, for about $75 million. And I remember I got a very terse, nasty letter from Pete Visklowski telling me to mind my own business, even though you could have built a dedicated bus run along that route for about $75 million, which would have been a fraction of the cost, even if it had overruns, like the railroad. Even if it ran $100 million, it's still a lot less than the $1 billion we spent on the train.
Yeah, we could go on. The Gary Airport, for example, they kept peddling that as a big. It's going to have all kinds of passenger service, blah blah blah. We need to build it up so to improve the runways and so forth and so on. It's all a bunch of crap, and I said so. I mean,
look, the Gary Airport may position itself at some point for package services. Okay, freight services. It's starting to get some business, But the idea that the Gary Airport is going to be this salvation of Northwest Indiana, it's just not going to be. It's not going to be. When you drive around Gary Airport, you don't see new warehouses going up. Okay, you see new warehouses on I-65 south of 30 going up, like weeds growing in the middle of summer. But you don't see all that new growth around Gary Airport. Once again, I have nothing against Gary Airport. When they did have passenger service, I actually wrote a guest column for the Times about how wonderful the service was. We flew down to Sanford, Florida, which is in the backyard of Orlando. It was great, but they couldn't sustain the commercial passenger traffic, and that lasted like 2 years. So once again, it's great to talk about it. And by the way, the airlines, with the shortage that they have for pilots right now and the equipment problems that they're having, and not to mention the software for the FAA, you're not going to see large scale passenger traffic out of Gary anytime soon. So let's quit believing our that falsehood.
But that's a lie they said over and over and over again. Even though I said, look, okay, so you improve it, but emphasize things like corporate, emphasize cargo and so forth. Oh my God! They were ready to chew my head off to suggest it was something other than passenger.
Gary Airport is a great location again for cargo, for package service, for corporate flights, those kinds of things. Yes, it makes sense, and I'm a proponent of Gary Airport from the standpoint of that we built it, so we need to use it and promote it. But this idea that we're going to have a passenger hub and Southwest is going to leave Midway Airport, or United is going to leave O'Hare or American or Delta, is just plain bull. It's not going to happen. It's never going to happen. Hey, thanks, Walt. Thanks so much for the call. 845-1100 is the number. How many callers? We have 2 callers holding. We're going to take a quick break, folks. Stay right on the line. We'll come right back to you after these commercial announcements. back, and we made some callers sit on hold, so let's go right to the callers. Good morning. You're on the air. Good morning.
Hey, good morning, Tom. How are you?
Fine. How are you?
Hey, so I wanted to start off by thanking you. For people like Walt and I, it felt like 10 years kind of shouting into a void, and it's nice. I mean, it's always nice when more people start to understand, what we were talking about for all those years. We were there from meeting one going, hey, this isn't going to work. This isn't going to be a $500 million project. So, I mean, thank you right off the bat for talking about this stuff, because I think it's important.
Chuck, let me throw this out. Look, you remember my proposal about doing the dedicated bus, all right? If you were going to make an improvement and you wanted to see if it worked, why wouldn't you take the lower cost approach first? All right.
Well, I was joking. I mean, you could run a bus right down that bike trail. It would cost you next to nothing to see if the line's even viable. But
actually, that was part of the proposal. If you remember, we said you could widen out the trail. All right. You could have one side be the dedicated bus route, and if it didn't work, then you just had a wider trail.
Well, and I remember having that discussion again years and years ago on these airwaves about. I said, why don't we kind of let technology see this through and see where. You're installing 100-year-old technology. We've got these basically public-private partnerships with flex buses and flex vans, apps that you can basically order a ride for the next day. And it's like, let's look at the technology. Instead of doing 100-year-old technology, let's look at the future. Let's try to come up with a system where, again, this system, this line will benefit a few thousand people going to Chicago. But, the people that I always hear that need rides are the elderly that need rides to the doctor, things like that, where we can use technology to say, okay, you can jump in a van and go to the doctor tomorrow. Those are the people that need our help, not people like myself. I'm on the Bishop Ford right now. I can afford to drive downtown. I don't need the government's help to do that, but the people that do need our help, they're stuck asking people for rides. Well, to go to the doctor, what have you.
And by the way, I just got a text from somebody who said, well, you're wrong because the Westlake Corridor has already created new development in downtown Hammond with the old Bank Calumet building. Really? Because the South Shore West Corridor is not running at all.
And the station hasn't been built yet. It's not going to be built until later.
Right. So that has nothing to do with it. I think the conversion of the old Bank Calumet building in downtown Hammond was a great project. It's a great project. It's going to cause people to live in downtown Hammond. It gives a new dimension to the downtown. I think it's a great project. No problems with that. But it had nothing to do with the Westlake Corridor.
But so the one thing I did want to get to is you've been spot on with all of this, but the one thing that we do have to add to this is where are the consequences? You guys just talked about the consultant. That was the same consultant that promised us 86,000 jobs in 5 airlines. Where is the consequences for having people that are so far off with their pie in the sky dreams that we say, oh, that guy, none of that came to fruition. Let's hire you again.
Well, here, Chuck, Mad Mac made a few comments about, consultants, and of course he was targeting his comments at me. I've never consulted on those pie in the sky projects. I've never sat there and thrown out those visionary claims that this project's going to create, as you said, 80,000 jobs, 50,000 jobs, $1 billion in economic development. That's not the kind of work that I've done. I've basically been on the other side looking at ways to bring about efficiency and improve operations and human resources. So you're right. Those consultants that do that, they peddle their story, and what's really interesting is when you look at their proposals or their actual studies, I should say, the study is identical to the same one that they handed out to 10 other communities. How it's going to create all these jobs and it's going to create all this economic development. They just recycle it. That's all they do.
Well, and I remember we had this discussion. I think we were at a meeting in Dyer, and the consultant was there. And I said, hey, again, I'm not the smartest guy in the world, but I have a little bit of understanding of how this works. I've been driving to Chicago. I ride the train. I said, where does this come from? And he literally told me, it was the most demeaning thing I ever heard. He said, well, we plug all this information into a magic box. And again, as an engineer, there's no such thing as, it's kind of like the AI. The AI is only as good as the people that program it.
I remember the magic box. I do remember that.
Yeah. And that's the thing, is that's how they talk. You say, you're the guy paying for it. And I had the audacity to say, hey, explain to me where these numbers came from. And he literally said, we plug it into a magic box. And I just kind of rolled my eyes. As an engineer, I said, the magic box spits out whatever you want it to. You plug in, and they had all this false data about how the region was growing, even though we're shrinking, and birth rates were up, even though every data point was inaccurate. So when you plug in inaccurate data, guess what? You're going to get whatever you want out of it when you make your pitch.
Chuck, look, the growth of Northwest Indiana is largely at the expense of Illinois, right? People are coming across on a regular basis. You talk to any real estate agent, they'll tell you that there are plenty of people coming across the line from Illinois to Indiana, to Northwest Indiana, and we should position our communities, all of them, so that they're more attractive, they're safer, and they're places that people want to live in. All right, and you and I have differed a little bit on over the years about Gary. My point is that you've got to do something about Gary, because there are a lot of people who won't look at Northwest Indiana because of Gary. So, however you want to dice and slice it, the people who are coming to Northwest Indiana largely are coming here at the expense of Illinois. So make them attractive, make them safe, make them viable communities, but do you need to put in these great big ticket items to do that? And my answer, and I think you have the same view, is no, you don't. Because people don't move to a community because they're going to be near this train that basically only serves a few thousand people. They're not coming here because of the airport. They're not coming here because of these big ticket items.
Well, think of the irony is that everybody that I've met in my life living on a border community, they've always said, what do I come here for? The low taxes. Right. And we're doing our damnedest to get rid of those low taxes, right? I mean, it's sort of that irony is everybody comes here for low taxes, yet we just keep spending money so that the low taxes go away. And, it's funny, I was even talking to MX last night, probably a decade or so ago. He was on the airwaves with me, and we talked about, in all of these plans, they talked about all of the new taxes that would be needed, wheel taxes, soda taxes. I mean, all these taxes. And I said, MX, I wish we could find that clip, because we told people years ago that this is how you have to pay for these things. You need new taxes to pay for new projects. And that's exactly what's been happening.
Well, you remember the Good Government Initiative, the so-called Maximus study that was going to find all of these opportunities for savings? What happened to it? Okay, I was actually on a couple of those committees, and when you look at government at the county level, you look at the way government's organized. A lot of those suggestions just went by the wayside. It sounded great. Those guys, for the most part, by the way, were bagmen, because they came in and admitted to me that they used the same model for Northwest Indiana that they used in Virginia, that they used in Nevada, that they used in California. They just came in and put their same model out there. The magic box, so to speak.
Right. Well, again, waste is waste, right? I mean, that's sort of the idea, is that you can put together all sorts of great ideas, and again, if nobody's going to put those in place. But again, where are the consequences? Where is the benefit to them? And I go back to the protests against Elon. Elon had the audacity to say, let's find waste in government, and thousands of Americans came out to protest the fact that he said we should have accountability and we should look for waste. So why would anybody look for waste ever again when you see what they put Elon through?
I agree with you. In fact, the only government official that I know of nationwide that continues to talk about the Doge concept is Ron DeSantis out of Florida.
Well, you've got even people like Thomas Massey and Rand Paul have talked about cutting the deficit and efficient government, and they're the ones that are constantly attacked by both sides for having the audacity to say we need to cut spending.
I'm saying that the idea of Doge was we're going to cut spending on the federal level, and then we're going to cut spending on the state level, the local level. We're going to cut spending, period. Right? I mean, the idea was we're going to find efficiencies. We're going to find new ways to do things. And the only governor that I know of right now in the United States that's talking about looking at efficiencies and how they could cut costs is the state of Florida. Nobody else. Right. Everybody else, even Arkansas, what's her name, Huckabee Sanders, she said that she was very interested in looking at the concept. And then I saw her on an interview the other day, and she said, well, we're still looking at the concept. In other words,
but look at the backlash, though, Tom. I mean, as soon as you start saying we're going to make cuts, people are saying they're going to steal food from children. You're going to cut off the lunch program. You're going to kill old people.
That's the reaction. There's a woman that I know who won't speak to me because she basically said that those Doge cuts would force her to have to volunteer to get her Medicaid care. And I know her, and she's physically fit, but she didn't want. She said, "Oh, I'm not getting a job. I'm not getting a job." Well, you know what? I'm sorry, but that's how the rest of us pay for our medical needs.
Right. Well, it's great for you, but then there's an entire system that has to support you. Even the idea of Social Security, where we're getting to the point where it's, I think we're at 3-to-1 or something like that. Eventually, we're going to be at 2 and 1-to-1. That's great for you, but the rest of the system can't support you for much longer.
No, I agree. Look, we just keep on spending, as the one caller said earlier. It's spend, debt, and nobody cares.
Right. Well, hey, I appreciate that you're taking the time to talk about this. And like I said, for a long time, we felt like we were shouting into the void. So it's great that other people are continuing to talk about this because I think it's important. But I think
it's just a larger group shouting into the void.
Yeah. Well, I mean, again, until there are consequences, everybody behind this, besides the congressman who retired, everybody else is still here. Everybody who pushed these taxes on you, there's been no consequences for taxation, for lying to you about the taxes, about increase. There's never any consequences, so why would anybody do anything different?
Good point. Good point. Hey, thanks so much.
Take care.
Thanks, Chuck. 845-1100 is the number. We've got one more caller, and then we'll go to a break. Good morning. You're on the air.
Hey, I just had to correct you real quick. I wasn't taking a shot at you. I was taking a shot at every single consultant. Cut the rates in half. They'll all still show up at the trough, no problem.
No, I agree. Look, I agree with you on that, Mad Mac, and I'll tell you what. One of these days soon, and I'll probably have you come in and co-host with me so I can spend some time talking about some of the inefficiencies that I've seen over the years with some of these so-called consulting firms. Many of them are engineering firms. All right, they dole out big dollars for re-election campaigns, and when you look at what they turn out, basically it's just basically a reproduction of the same study that they did for every other community. I've seen artwork that was used, for example, for a enhancement plan years ago for Indianapolis Boulevard up in Whiting Robertsdale by a firm, and the same artwork I saw in a plan not that long ago done by the same company for another community in Northwest Indiana. So all it told me was they took that artwork and said, "Hey, this looks good. Let's put it in here."
It's just a gigantic juice machine. I mean, I'd rather deal with the mob because then at least I know what I'm dealing with. They walk right up to you and go, "Here's the deal. We're going to win, you're going to lose, and you're going to pay." Okay, at least I know where I'm standing, as opposed to being lied to at every juncture. Now, I got a question. I want to know where Frank Mervan is at on this idiotic electric train thing. Who's paying for the mistake? Because it shouldn't be out of my budget anymore. We paid you to do it right. Just do it right. Now you got to redo it. Who's paying for the $70-80 million for the redo? That should come right out of the contractor. But it won't. We'll take it right up to Keister again. The other thing is, when I get sick of hearing these people from the government tell me how good they are and how honest they are, Washington, D.C. Police Department yesterday just put a sergeant on unpaid leave. And why was that? Because he was the brainiac behind the scheme to bring down crime rates in D.C. And how did he do it? Did he do it with police work? Did he do it by getting more cops on the street? Did he do it by more arrests? Nope. He told the cops, listen, anything that's even close to a felony, it's not going to be written up. You put it as a parking ticket, dismiss it, whatever you got to do, but we're hiding these statistics. That place is as dangerous as hell. And tell me to believe a politician.
So we haven't talked about Washington, D.C. yet, but I will tell you, I went out to Washington a couple of times in the last few years, and I have to say that there are parts of Washington, D.C. where tourists go and people gravitate to that are very dangerous. There's no doubt about it. And the the homeless people out there are almost out of like a science fiction movie because they chase after you. They want money, they want assistance, and they have no problem.
They're aggressive. They want what they want, and they're going to get it, and there's no consequences for their bad behavior, or if they injure you, or they just happen to fall on your car, or if you're riding your bike down the street, and I'm three guys in front of me, and the bum just runs out right in front of them, kaboom. Now you got three guys laying on the ground on their bikes.
I saw that in Washington. I rented one of the bikes, like the Divvy bikes in Chicago. I rented one out there, and I actually saw a homeless person just run right out in front of a bicyclist and tackle the bicyclist.
Yeah. I don't know what is wrong with Democrats. Here's a guy who's going to go, look, we're getting rid of crime. That is good for everybody. Everybody wins.
But hold on, man, Mac, because you just always break it down to it's Democrats and Republicans. There are plenty of Republicans that have created the problems that exist in Washington with the federal government just as much as Democrats. Your buddy Mitch McConnell.
There's never been a Republican mayor in Washington D.C., Tom.
All right, but look at
What do you have? How do you respond to that, Tom?
Because the fact is that there have been plenty of bad Republicans in Washington D.C. is my point. Okay, you can't
none of them have been the mayor, and none of them have been the police chief.
They've helped create the problems that we have. I will tell you right now. I think that when he's out of office 10 years from now, you and I will still be talking on the radio, and we're going to find out all the damage that a guy like Mitch McConnell has done over the years to this nation.
There's no doubt about it, but we're not talking about him right now. We're talking about Washington, D.C. The city council in D.C. is 99% Democrat. What do you want me to say?
No, I agree with you. I think it basically comes down to the mindset out there. So some of the very people that have behind the scenes helped create some of the problems that exist in Washington D.C. are Republicans. That's my point.
Right, but when you hire or vote in a man with intestinal fortitude who says we are changing this, we're going to do it correctly, but everybody in D.C. has got to go, oh, well, that's Donald Trump, but we got to hate him. If that guy comes up with the cure for cancer, we're rejecting it.
Well, I agree with you. I agree with you. Look, there were plenty of posts from people locally who are friends of mine who posted immediately after Trump's announcement about Washington, D.C. and crime, who immediately attacked him. Within 5 minutes, they had posts out there.
Right.
Okay.
And you know who praised the guy? The police in D.C. They're going, oh, my God, thank God someone is coming to help us.
The police, the average residents, and even some of the news media, not publicly but privately, are saying it was necessary. There's been problems. There's been problems with crime in Washington for a long time. And no one else wanted to do anything, so Trump went ahead and did it, and there was just this quick backlash.
Accept the lower levels of depravity, and it doesn't have to be that way. Not at all.
Well, I agree with you. Washington, D.C. should be the quote-unquote the people's city, the city that anybody and everybody can go to, and they can enjoy it. And there are plenty of areas, and there are plenty of areas in Washington that are very, very scary. You're absolutely right. And anybody
all right, I gotta go. I love you.
They're wrong.
I love you. I gotta go swimming. Goodbye.
Go swimming. That was good. Why don't we take a quick break? It's the morning call with Tom Dabertin. I think we're actually to the point we've got some lines open now. Yep. So if you want to call in, we're going to take a break. Now's the time to call in. When we come back, we'll take your call. Stay tuned right here. right, folks, we're back, and I think we have a little technical issue that we're trying to clean up. But the lines are now open, 845-1100. We've been talking about a lot of things. Obviously, the Senate Bill 1, which the idea of transferring property tax bills to local income taxes, and that's really what it's all about. So, it sounds great. The state's going to give us a discount on our property taxes, and I, like everybody else, look forward to cuts in property taxes. Then, at the same time, what they're saying is local communities, you're going to have to find the money, and you're going to have to generate new taxes. So, as MX said before, you're going to save $300, but you're going to spend $400 to save the $300. So the net cost is going to be $100 more. And that's been the big discussion this morning. And the other is that we have all these programs and all these projects, and they sound great. We're going to give you $7 million for a bridge, or we're going to give you $7 million to rebuild this street. And all you have to do is put 20% in. Well, 20% is $1.4 million. Except the local community doesn't have the $1.4 million, so they issue a bond issue, and then that $1.4 million ends up costing $2.5 million. And before you know it, the budget, there's a budget shortfall. So it sounds great when everybody comes to town with these great big projects, and we've talked about the train till we're blue in the face. But the train is an example of where government makes it sound like it's a great deal. You're going to get a portion of this is going to be paid by federal taxes, except who pays federal taxes? You and I do. So it becomes this cycle, if you will, where you're going to get the money, but then you're going to have to use local dollars to help pay for it. The local dollars are going to pick up the shortfalls. That's another thing. If the $7 million project runs over and it costs $9 million, well, now you're on the hook for the additional $2 million as well. Before you know it, you're spending $5 million. And that's really where the problem lies with all these projects that people are calling in about. So 845-1100. Joe, do we have a caller? We have callers? We'll go right to the callers. Good morning, you're on the air.
Good morning, Tom. How are you this morning?
Good. How are you?
I'm doing great, and I appreciate the intellectual discussion. The people that want to overcomplicate talk radio. Talk radio is basically about individuals in the community conveying their thoughts, opinions, feelings, and you discuss it back and forth. It's not that hard, not that difficult. Don't need video. You don't need message boards. You don't need a soliloquy of, the business plan. You bring up a subject, community speaks on it. Simple concept. Great intellectual points of view this morning. The problem I have with conversations today, Tom, it seems like, and everybody made excellent points this morning, it seems like if you don't agree with them 100%, you're bad. Instead of agreeing on the 80% that we agree with, and that's what government waste. And yes, Chuck asked earlier, where's the accountability? There is going to be none. He's going to be, and many of your callers are going to, including myself, we're going to continue to be called cave people. You're going to continue to be told you're a Republican or you have no ideas. What are your solutions? As if we do not want to see our community thrive. Because some of us, believe it or not, live in communities that are absolutely positively 100% thriving, despite what I hear on this radio station. I heard, and in fairness, I heard people with excellent points in different communities who are doing things in their community that I heard Dave from Gary on yesterday, or Dave, one of the days, he stated, which I've been trying to say, Gary's not going to be, the problems in Gary are not going to be solved in one election cycle. But the problem is, and Dave's got to understand that, and he's a young resident of Gary, the problem is so many people in the older community seem to look at everything as election cycles. If I get my guy in, despite what's happened for 50 years, that guy or gal is going to turn it around.
Let me just jump in for a second, and I agree with you. Okay, the idea that everything, nothing really can change in a community in a 4-year cycle, especially when you look at a city like Gary. Okay, Gary's going to take more than 4 years to figure out. So you're right about that. I give Dave from Gary an awful lot of credit because he's invested in a community that he believes in. He's a supporter. People like to denigrate his opinions simply because he supports his community, just as you support your community. 100%. I support mine. What's wrong with that?
Nothing. But see, the thing is, that's such a minority opinion in that community. Yeah, I know the lake, and I understand the Miller community. That's an excellent model. Unfortunately, you don't have enough Rons, Burleys, and her husband who built a home there. Ron invested for years, including some of the business people I heard Chuck mention. And I don't like to mention other names of business people because I don't want to. If I say something positive about them, that's going to be a negative because you're like that guy who's a conservative. There are business-minded people in that city that are trying, but it's hard.
Wait a minute. I want to jump in again because you brought up Verley, okay? And so Verley and her husband are investing money in building a home, okay? They're building a home, so they're putting their money where their mouth is.
100%.
All right? Ron gets chopped up all the time, and once again, you're right. Ron does a lot of good, and I've known him for many years for his community, and
100%.
he gets chopped up by it. So you're right. People can't disagree without attacking someone. All right, and I bring this up all the time, but I truly believe this. Look, you need to go back to the idea that, as you said, you can disagree with people. You can agree to disagree, but you've got to show them some level of respect. Because I disagree with you doesn't mean that you're a dirtbag, that you're a communist, that you're the most evil form of person there is on planet Earth. We have a difference of opinion, but unfortunately, this day and age, it's everywhere. You attack people, and before you know it, they're the scum of the earth.
Well, Tom, I don't even live in Hammond. I've never lived in Hammond. I don't own anything in Hammond. I got attacked on these airways for saying something positive about your mayor. Never met him, never contributed. I was a fan of his dad, okay? And you know that Republican Party. Oh, that's where he's at. I go by issues, Tom. Issues. Anybody who tells me that the city of Hammond, back in the day, when if you'd spit on the sidewalk, it'd flood. You know the time frame I'm talking about.
Sure.
That's not the case today. So if you don't understand that that city is totally moving forward from 30 years ago, you're intellectually dishonest with me. Okay, you're not telling the truth. And then I'll say the same with Griffith. I heard a gentleman who writes in a paper. He said now this is a so-called reporter, right? This gentleman said on these airways he could see no improvement in the town of Griffith in 25 years.
What? But he forgets to point out that he ran for office and lost.
Yeah, I know. But it's so frustrating, and that's why sometimes you get, and then people say, well, why are people mad? Tom, people call for 3 minutes, 2 minutes, 4. They don't walk around angry what they told Tom or Coos or Vert on it. It's 2-3 minutes. You're passionate and you go on about your business. I got money to make, man.
I hope you're right about that because that's where I disagree. I think people this day and age, they can't disagree. Okay, they turn it into a mission in their life that they absolutely hate those people. They see something that they don't like on social media. They see a post on Facebook because somebody says they don't like Donald Trump, so they don't follow them anymore. They unfriend them because, they disagree with me and I like Donald Trump, or vice versa. It's like, okay, so you don't like Donald Trump and I do, or vice versa. I don't like Donald Trump and you do. So what?
But Tom,
why does this have to become such a vicious cycle where people turn it into such a personal situation? If I no longer spoke to people that I've had disagreements with, I wouldn't even be able to talk to my dog.
No, you're exactly right. But the thing is, Tom, in certain areas, Tom, I'm telling you, and I'm seeing it already. I remember when new administration was going to start in Gary. It doesn't matter the name. I told Reardon Kuzak on this station, I said, they don't understand. They don't, from day one. So it's not, you're attacked. It's not just people, I disagree. No. It's, you're in, my guys are out, you're going down. Next administration comes in, my guy or gal's in, you're going down. This administration, you've heard the buzz. I know you heard the buzz locally, about certain individuals within law enforcement circling around different communities. I know you have.
Sure.
And then I hear, what frustrates me, that I'll hear, well, I hear that all the time and never comes to fruition. Yes, it does. The trouble is, every time some of us bring it up, here's what I constantly, we talked about. No, you didn't. Because so many people like to come after the fact.
Well, I've had issue, for example, with people who like to, who like to make that comment. Oh, that the feds are after so-and-so. They're there. And lying, it never happens. You're absolutely right. Hey, thanks so much for the call. Thank you very much. 845-1100, we've got some more callers. Good morning, you're on the air.
Morning, Tom.
Good morning.
I have to say, you're a breath of fresh air on Wednesdays. I mean, you look into the camera. You look into the camera when you're speaking. You don't put your leg on top of the desk. And this really irks me is yesterday at 6:11, I turn on WJOB, JTV, and the first thing that comes out of the host's mouth is, let's get these punk-ass kids back in school. I mean, that was offensive. I mean, he's got kids that went to school. He's got a grandson. I mean, that was the wrong way to start the day off for these kids. I mean, he could have been.
I agree. I agree with you. Look, my view of kids is that's our future. That is our hope for the future. So if I see kids walking to school right now, and as Trucker Mike mentioned this morning, make sure you slow down if you see a bus, you see kids walking down the street, especially in a school area. That's our future. All right. The future of our area is not Tom Dabertin, Jed Didalo, Dave Kuziak. We're all old. Okay. It's the future are those kids that need to get the chance to succeed, to get an education and succeed in life. By the way, I do have to admit, and I don't know, Joe, if you can do this, but if you can pan down just a little bit on the camera right now. One problem I have is, if you can see this, is my feet stick out from underneath the desk sometime. So we always the good news is I'm tall enough they don't show my feet, but there you go. Anyway, go ahead.
I had the pleasure with my granddaughter that took me and my wife to her school. She did it the day before, and she called and said, would you like to walk through the school and see my classes? And to go there and see the principal, enthusiasm, the teachers getting their classrooms ready, the children walking to school trying to find, there's your legs. I see your legs now.
Yeah. Yes. And I mean, but look, your point is well taken. They're our hope, they're our future. Okay. And so I'm not going to call them punk anything. Kids are kids, and kids do some things that, once again, you regret. You laugh about the things that you did when you were kids. Look, there isn't anybody that calls these airwaves that was just the perfect little boy or girl when they were growing up, because I can refute that by asking their siblings, their friends, and they'll tell you differently. There's a lot of things that I did when I was a kid. My mother had 6 kids and did a great job raising us. But if she only knew about the things we really did, she probably would have cringed. But look, kids are kids, and kids do some funny things, some stupid things. It's part of the learning process of life. And I'm not going to fault kids. I think kids are, again, our future.
I mean, and then the bad thing about it, he had a caller later on, and he says, "What do you think about that caller that complained about me calling kids punk asses?" And she just hesitated, didn't say a word. And then while I was having a conversation with the host, he told Andrea to cut this guy off. I didn't say anything wrong, but he cut me off.
Well, don't blame her. Just don't blame her.
I don't blame her. And, and also, I enjoyed the show this morning, about this, downfalls of the money with these towns and all that. He had Phil Schmidt call in and said that Cherville's going to be short $1.3 million for the next 3 years.
Tom
Schmidt. I mean, what about these projects? Kennedy Avenue, there was a delay in that. That's going to cost more money. Now, the Speedway, they had to bring in a firm. Why do we have a town manager, aides for the town, and councilmen? Can't they decide what's going to go there? Why do you have to hire an outside, someone to come in, and it was a poor presentation that night? I mean, everything costs money, and we're going to get socked. I know we're going to get socked.
Again, projects are necessary. You have to rebuild bridges. You have to rebuild roads. You have to rebuild government facilities, parks, you name it. You have to maintain them. There are those costs, and that's why when people say, "Well, I'm going to go in and cut government. I'm just going to cut out the park department." Okay, great. But when the weeds are 4 feet high, just remember you said you're going to cut government. You're going to cut out the park department because we don't need it. Well, that's fine, but then you're going to have 4-foot weeds everywhere. People don't realize the cost of government. I do take exception to some of these large ticket projects that are always sold as this is going to be great for the region. It's really going to have such a massive impact. It's going to generate all these additional dollars. And in reality, again, that $7 million bridge ends up costing the local community, it's supposed to cost them $1.4 million, but then when they finance it, it's $2.5, and when there's an overrun on the project, it adds another $2 million, so the local community ends up spending $4.5 million for that project. That's where I have a problem. Hey, thanks so much for calling. Yep.
One more thing.
Sure.
About Trucker Mike, how many years did he work driving the truck from here to Kentucky at that company, and then they had him training, new drivers? I mean, isn't the company taking care of him? I feel sorry for him and all that.
From everything that Mike has told me, that his employer has been very helpful. His employer has been very helpful. Hey, thanks for the call. One more call, and then we're going to go to a break. Oh, it's 8 o'clock. I'm sorry. I just got it signaled by Joe. It's 8 a.m. You're listening to WJOB 1230 AM, 104.7 FM in Hammond, Indiana. Let's take one more caller, and then we're going to go to a break. Good morning. You're on the air.
It's 7:57.
No, it's 8 a.m. It's 8 a.m. on the dot.
Okay. I've been listening to WJOB. My mom listened to it from the 70s, whatever. But when the remark that was made yesterday that someone just said is so totally wrong, and that when they showed your feet,
yeah,
which I was really surprised that the ground is a mess. So whoever made that comment, I won't mention any name, about the beautiful children and what they are faced with today. Let him clean that mess up. And he is no better than anybody else.
No, he's not. He's not. And look, you brought it up, and the previous caller brought it up. I don't know what was said, but I know this. When I see kids, I don't care who they are, where they're from, what race they are, what ethnicity they are. I see kids as the future. And that's
one thing,
what they
Tom.
are.
Before you go, listen to one thing. I do an addiction group online, too. And I'm going to tell you, I see getting off the bus anymore and on is children who are faced with these drugs that are on the street. They have a lot to deal with, and they're beautiful. They start out beautiful, and it's the parenting and everything else that goes wrong. But bring some awareness to that. That's what these kids have to face every day that don't live in Munster. Okay?
Well, being
don't all live in Munster.
Being a kid these days, whether you're in Munster, Hammond, East Chicago, Gary, Highland, Griffith, it doesn't matter. Being a kid this day and age is very tough because you're getting so much messaging, especially from social media, and they're not allowed to be kids. They're being forced to take on adult topics and adult issues way too early. Let kids be kids.
Look up the drugs that's in the area and what it's doing because we're so close to state line and just so the cartel and what can come in the mail. Look at that, and you can worry about doing something about Lake County. Do something to help the kids. Get rid of the drugs, but bring awareness. That WJOB needs more of that, and they don't do that.
I appreciate the call.
You too.
Thank you so much. Let's take a quick break. It's the morning call. We're in the last half hour because I think Parks comes on at 8:30 this morning, so we're in the last half hour. If you want to call in, please do so. I know the phone lines have been very, very busy today, but now's the time to call in. We're going to take a quick break. We'll be right back. It's the morning call with Tom Dabertin on WJOB 1230 AM, 104.7 FM. We're having a little problem with one of our software programs here this morning. So at 8:22, I'm going to take a break, and we're going to be down for a few minutes, and then we're going to come back up at 8:30 with Think Parks. So just in case you're thinking of calling, now's the time to call, because at 8:22, we're going to take that 8-minute break to reset a program that we need to reset. So 845-1100 is the number. Joe, is there a caller? No. So, okay, we're good for now. Look, I want to clarify something. I just got a text from somebody, and they said, what major project is Gary undertaken since the steel yard that's benefited the community that's cost a lot of money? My point is that whether you're Hammond, you're Gary, you're East Chicago, you're Whiting, you're Munster, you're Highland, Griffith, the projects that communities have undertaken years ago are still costing taxpayers today. So if you built something some years ago, the cost of that project is still haunting those communities in many cases. So I'm not attacking any current projects. I'm talking about the obvious, that once again, if you spend $10 million for a project and you have to put up 20%, that's $2 million. All right. If you put up the $2 million and you finance it, you're probably talking around $2.8 million. And the $2.8 million, then if there's a cost overrun of $2 million, now you're at $4.8 million. So you spent $4.8 million for a $10 million project. That's my point. And that cost gets kicked down the road, just like federal dollars. All right. Again, everybody wants your congressman, including Frank Mervan, to bring home the bacon, right? They run on that platform. I brought tax dollars back to my district. Everybody wants that because we want our piece of the pie. But the fact is, that piece of the pie, you're paying for it. And that's my point. It's not a dig at Frank Mervan. It's a dig at the fact that it's like Pogo said, we've met the enemy and the enemy is us, because we basically come in and we say, oh, look, we want more projects. That's great. We want more projects. And then we realize later on, just as, the old Pogo statement, we've met the enemy and the enemy is us. Well, we wanted those projects. Now we have to pay for them. That's the problem. So I just wanted to clarify a couple of comments, since a few people texted me this morning and said, hey, you need to clarify what you said. Well, again, the tax burden that exists today doesn't go away tomorrow. All right, it's still there. It's just being passed down the line because, once again, just like the federal government, local communities are refinancing debt. So, Jed, you're sitting in. What's up?
I just wanted to say hi. Are you in the middle of something?
No. We've had a lot of callers.
I saw that, and I'm like, I didn't want to bother you before.
No.
I don't know if you guys follow it. I'll be here Thursday and Friday. And I want to say thank you to Kuziak for taking yesterday, but it's kind of cool that I could sit over there and I'll kind of half listen to what you're doing. Like, remember when the trucker Mike called in?
Oh yeah.
And you're looking at me and you're like, "Hey, what do we do?"
And you're like, "What are you talking about?" Right?
Yeah, I don't know what to do, but I mean, I really appreciate that you guys do this. And to be honest, I think one of the problems in the beginning was, I've been doing this show for 20 years, and you develop a lot of people that kind of want to hear you, and then I'm like, people are complaining that I'm not on, even if it's Kuziak or you or Verley or Chuck Pullen. But I think that people have gotten used to this, and I think there's plenty of people that only listen when you're on now. I'm like, right. I'm good with this.
I think there's some people that they tune in because they like that person. They like you or they like me. They like Kuziak or they like Verley, and that's fine, and that's great, and that's part of the variety of, or part of the value of WJOB is that there is that variety. That's the variety in opinions and variety in the moderator too. So
you said something, and I was listening. We got phone calls. We'll take them on. We'll take them in a second here, and you're talking. And you go, well, I don't like that when someone tells me, "Oh, this guy's getting looked at by the feds," because that's kind of one of the things that I learned, or I actually learned that from Colby in the 80s. So-and-so told me that the feds are looking at blank and feds are looking at blank. And he brings me in the office and he's like, don't ever fall for that crap.
Right.
He's like, people that tell you that are really just usually pushing their own agenda, and they just want you to carry their water for them. And I'm like, what were you talking about? And then I'm like, how many times have I been in the canned good aisle at Strack and Van Til? And, hey, man, I heard so-and-so.
All the time.
Oh, yeah, I heard so-and-so. And I'm like, come on, man. What is this
about? The stories that the feds are circling so-and-so or the feds are investigating so-and-so. I mean, you've been at this longer than I have, but we've both been involved for a long time, and we've heard all those stories that, hey, this guy's going down, right? Or they're ready to arrest this person. They've got federal charges. There's a federal grand jury. Well, I mean, I can think of a handful of individuals right off the top. Never has anything ever transpired of any of those claims.
Never. Now, I have seen a couple where, I mean, I didn't want to ever talk about them. I think it's been 10 years or more now, but there were a couple times, like, every once in a while, I'll get a complaint or they'll, have some problems with the FCC. And one time we had a little problem where they wouldn't renew our license. And since they wouldn't renew the license, I couldn't renew my financing because the people are like, dude, you don't have the license now or something like that. And I'm like, well, this is kind of a weird thing. And they go, hey, if you sign something that says the statute of limitations isn't up against your station, we'll renew your license. So I'm like, well, what does that mean? And the lawyer's like, you don't really have any choice. So I signed the thing, and then the next day they go back like 7 years or something, and they say, this person, it sounds like you were doing X, Y, and Z, and then you could tell that they were going after one specific person. And I'm like, well, that sounds really odd. This person doesn't seem to be getting looked at. And so then I dig deeper, and, I learned a lot of different things. First of all, the FCC isn't really supposed to be sharing data with the Department of Justice, but maybe they're allowed to now. I don't know. But then I knew they were looking at this person hard, and then they interview me, and they're like, "What about this person? What did this person say? What did that person say?" And I'm like, "You're obviously investigating a very important person in the region, and nobody knows it. I don't even think that person knows it." And I'm like, all right, what do I do with this information? I'm like, well, I did nothing, and then nothing ever came of it.
The only person that I've ever heard was being investigated by the feds, and it came to fruition, was the one we talked about a few months ago, John Bunsich. I had heard that.
Oh, I had heard it. Everybody had heard it.
But that was the only one that came to fruition where you heard that advanced conversation out there that, hey, they're looking at this guy. It was Bunsich. All right. That was the one that came true. But there's a number of other people. Again, we won't mention the names because if we do, we're just passing on the rumors. But there are a lot of people that they'll say, oh, yeah, well, that one's getting looked at. This one's getting looked at. And it's kind of like the lady who posted the other day on the What's Going On in Hammond on Facebook, who said that ICE was basically waiting in a parking lot, and they were basically going to hold an ICE raid. And finally, Scott Miller, the chief of staff in Hammond, jumped in and said, "This has nothing to do with ICE. This is somebody getting a federal warrant served." And it has nothing to do with ICE whatsoever. And the person's like, "Oh, just watching out for my community." I was glad that I was able to share with people that there was law enforcement activity. It's like, no, you weren't. You were claiming that it was an ICE raid. It had nothing to do with what you claimed. But they turned it around and like, "Oh yeah, that's what I meant to say." And I think we had a caller hanging on there. We got a
bunch. Hey, wait, I'm not bringing them in. You are.
All right. Good morning. You're on the air.
Hey, Jimmy, good to have you in the studio, but I hate to burst your bubble, but I got to tell you, I haven't heard anybody say we need more Jed. Just to let you know. Haven't heard that at all.
I get all of that. Hey, listen, I want to tell you guys a story about what I.
Is this my call or yours? Go ahead.
Well, you're just gonna make fun of me, and we could do that on my own show. This is his show, okay? And I appreciate that, but I guess you're getting to my point in that in the beginning, to be honest, when I would have basically I got 4 substitute hosts.
Did you say honest? Go ahead.
Would be people would be like, dude, if you're not on, I click. And then those same people are coming to me now. Dabertin's not so bad. I like listening to Kuziak. Verley, I don't always agree with her, but I like it. And even Chuck Pullen, as goofy as he is, and I'm like, that is what we needed to do. Because I'll be honest, this, Mad Mac, as a sports guy, this thing's going nuts on us. And I don't know how long I can wake up at 4:20 every morning and come in here 4 days a week. It's just not going to work. Hey, hang up on him. Thank you. Bye. I want to tell you guys what I did yesterday.
What'd you do?
As you know, this Jed TV Sports Network, it when we bring on more people, it takes about a year to get the money back. And so we have to put money out, and I want to say thank you to some people that have invested in, the Jed TV Sports Network, and we appreciate it, but the state is all over us to come down to Indianapolis, and they're like, hey, we got people that, like what you're doing, and they want to expand, and we think that you're doing the right thing. So we very rarely go. But yesterday, they invited us, me and Peter, to the Live Golf Tournament in Indianapolis at the Chatham Hills Golf Country Club. And I'm like, well, what does this mean? And so we go there, and they've built all these amazing temporary structures with real floors and air conditioning and everything, and then it's on the 18th green, and we sit through a couple. Liv came out and told us how they market their company and how they collect data, and there were maybe 40 companies in Indiana that are like us, that are growing, and that they thought we could really learn from the Live Golf Tournament. I'll tell you what, man, I've not learned more in a shorter period of time than sitting through this. But that's not why I went. It turned out that the state really kind of nailed it that time and got us. We talked to the right people, and who knows what's going to happen. But we walk out of the thing, and we're right there. right by the practice green, and there's Sergio Garcia. There's John Rahm.
Wow.
There's Bubba Watson, who I didn't realize was so thin, and I thought he was taller. But I mean, Charles Hollowell III. All these dudes are just sitting there talking. You were allowed to go up and talk to them. Hey, what's going on? Oh, I think it might rain. Because it rained like crazy yesterday. And I got to say that if you have not gone to a live golf tournament, I mean, they would give me tickets to go back on Friday, but I'm not going to do it. I basically saw the whole course and saw the how they run it. They have big boards out on the course. They have a playground right by the 18th tee, and they've tried to make it. They have the party hole.
I went to the Chicago one,
and you did, wasn't it? I mean,
so much fun.
I got to tell you, it's so much fun. And then they don't start like, oh, this guy starts, and this guy starts, and this guy starts.
Yeah, it's all shotgun.
It's shotgun.
Yeah,
start.
I heard their tournaments are a lot better.
Oh,
they really are.
So, have any of you guys watched the new Happy Gilmore movie?
Not yet.
No.
I'm saving it.
Yet.
I got to watch it on a night when my wife's not watching TV with me because she won't watch stupid.
No, you know what? I have the same problem. Yeah, absolutely. Right? Wives don't want to watch stupid movies with their husbands. I mean, you got it right. It's got to be like, when she says, okay, I'm going somewhere, it's like, okay, well, she's going to be gone for 3 hours. Yeah, I can watch the stupid movie. Yep, absolutely.
That's exactly. But I've had it quoted to me several times, and that they were kind of making fun of the Live Tour, right?
Yep, they were.
Right.
Yeah, and they had live golfers on there, like Bryson DeChambeau is like one of the main golfers in there. I yelled some stuff. I'm not going to say what I yelled on air when I was there, but I made some quotes to Happy Gilmore that he didn't like because he lipped out the putt when I yelled it.
Yeah, by the way, stupid movies. There's another stupid movie I want to see, which is the reboot of
Naked Gun.
Naked Gun.
Oh,
yeah.
yes.
I want
and
to see
then there's
that.
another one with Odenkirk. Do you know that guy? It comes out Friday.
Oh, I heard about this. My son told me.
Yeah, I mean, I'm a huge stupid movie guy.
I am,
and
too.
my wife is like, you. And then she's like, I look over and you're like laughing like you're in 8th grade, like Beavis and Butthead. I'm like, yeah. That's what I like.
You know what? I just made my wife watch the entire 4 seasons of Righteous Gemstones.
Oh,
and you've seen it?
I've seen a couple.
Okay,
I've never got into it like this.
We watched all 4 seasons, and she's still like blaming me, like I lost all that time from my life. Okay, watching that stupid show with you. So yeah.
So I will go watch it, but. You went to the Chicago one.
Yes.
And they said that was really nice, but the way they did it in Indianapolis and how big it is,
it
they said
so much nicer in Indianapolis than
they're like, oh my gosh, this is the nicest we've ever had.
Indianapolis does sports correctly. They just do.
Well, that's our problem.
I mean, that is
that's
problem.
our.
Right.
You know, as the Jet TV Sports Network, that if we want to get reasonable investment on a larger level, then we got to go there and take their money and probably move some of our operations there. And that is so many. I mean, I ran into so many companies in the sports tech world. This was called the Sports Tech HQ, and I was all these sports tech guys, all the way from a guy that you put a band on your leg and you play your soccer game and it maps out all of your stuff. I mean, there's all sorts of tech things that are sports oriented, but Indianapolis wants to be the sports tech capital of America. So when they brought in Live, they got sensors and cameras and all sorts of tech everywhere, and they wanted to show it to us, and it was the coolest thing, man.
We got a caller waiting.
I was saying we got 2 minutes and we got to wrap.
Okay. I thought you were doing this, and never mind. Okay.
So, anyways, you went to the one in Chicago, and the people that were, I think it's Group 5 that does all the tours of the place, said, oh, my God, this is like twice as big, and they're expecting their largest crowd ever for a live tournament this weekend in Indianapolis. I would go. I mean, did you have that much fun?
I had so much fun.
And the players are right there.
Yeah, it's a good place like to bring kids too. They have like areas for like a kid zone, and they got like
bouncy
huts,
houses on the course.
They literally
so they're able to appeal to a wider audience. Is what they're doing.
They said is they started, and this is what we did here, and Joe knows this, as he's probably not going to be doing as much in the morning once the football starts, is that he's going to be pushed. I can make this announcement, right?
Yeah.
About we're going to do a game day at Andrean versus Fort Wayne Lures on a Saturday.
Really?
They moved the game to a Saturday.
So excited.
And we're like, well, who should host this? And we got the guy, I hate to say this, but public radio and public TV is gone. They lost it. And the main guy there is the public TV guy. Well, he's going to host it. I forget his name. And then we're like, well, who should be the co-host? And I'm like, Joe Cimino was their quarterback 4 years ago.
That makes perfect sense.
He's going to be the host of Game Day at our very first one. And just to make fun of my friend Brian Jennings, as soon as this comes out, and it's not even been announced yet, I'm telling it, Sam's going to be pissed because all the details aren't done. As soon as we tell, we're going to Indy and we're calling on the way home and we're calling people, and Jennings calls Sam, puts him on the thing, and they're talking. And then we tell him about what's going on in Andrean. We hang up. 10 minutes later, Jennings back. Hey, we want to do that for the Lowell game. So if you do a good job at the Andrean game, then you would do it the following week at the Griffith game. So, it's out in the parking lot.
I'm there every week, anytime you need me.
Well, you're there. You're going to be there every Friday
right,
anyway.
You'll be there anyway. So, yeah. But this way, you're actually going to be doing more than schlepping stuff behind the scenes.
I know.
So you better, just all you got to do is talk to people. That's it.
I've been practicing.
You do a good job. Hey, and with that, I got the hint. We've got to end the morning call a little early today. We've got some tech problems that we're going to try and reset. So you will probably just get some music.
So yeah, they'll get some music, get some, and then Chuck Gardner's out there
for Think Park. So he's coming up at 8:30. So we want to do this quick reset, folks. So stay tuned with us. Think Parks is coming up. I'll be back here next Wednesday morning at 6 a.m. with the morning call, and don't forget August 27th. Starting at 7:30, I think we're going to go till 9 that day. I've got Dan Durnall and Lonnie Randolph both going to be here, state senators, one Democrat, one Republican, and they're going to take your calls about Senate Bill 1 and everything else that's going on.
I think that day I'll actually be out talking at a local union hall, too.
There you go.
I would be here. All right,
there you go. Hey, have a great day, folks. Keep it tuned right here all day, all week to WJOB 1230 AM, 104.7 FM. We'll see you next Wednesday.